Good evening, crackpotters. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about taking responsibility for your actions. Now, if you're watching this video, it was probably because I took a little bit of a trip out to the eastern side of our country where a certain individual and his government reside and do their work. And me and a group of other people went and let our grievances be known that they weren't taking responsibility for their actions. While I was there, you can actually quote me on saying many times, and I was asked by various news organizations and what have yous, that what we wanted was for the government to come out and admit that they were wrong, own their mistakes, apologize, and tell us how they were going to change things. Of course, that never happened. But anyways, so I am currently driving about 2 miles south of my house, and when we get there, you will see that there is a dump truck, grain truck, that is experiencing an imbalance between power and traction. Now, being 45 years old, it doesn't have a whole lot of power, so that would mean, for those of you who like to do abstract math like this, it is stuck. Now, I don't like to own up to my actions, take responsibility for my actions sometimes. My wife will attest to that, definitely. But I'm learning that it makes life easier sometimes when you just go, yep, I screwed that up right there. That steaming pile of garbage of whatever it is that I did that. Okay, now I'm going to move on. That makes things a lot easier if you have the attitude to learn and grow rather than just to lie and say, nope, I didn't do it, or it's someone else's fault. That doesn't get you anywhere. That's how you end up where our country currently is. That's how you end up where our government currently is, where they're in court and being subpoenaed and lying through their teeth and backpedaling and denying and dismissing because they won't own up to the mistakes that they made. Now, they had an opportunity a few months ago when they were in the spotlight and a group of people had come down there and asked them to own up to their actions, and they didn't. And now it just keeps getting worse and worse, and it's keeping digging their hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And it's kind of funny to watch because we've all been there. We've all not owned up to the things we did. We didn't admit our mistakes, and it got worse and worse. And finally, by the time we actually dealt with it, it was 10 times worse than ever could have been, and things did not go well for us because of that. And so I'm kind of making a bit of prediction that, unfortunately, the people in the government who made the decision to not own their mistakes, it's going to be a lot worse for them than had they just gone, yeah, okay, we did it. Sorry. So what I'm trying to get at here is, let's all, as citizens in this country, let's all make a habit of trying to own up to our mistakes. We all make them. We're humans. We're not perfect, no matter how hard we try, no matter what we do. Things are not going to go perfectly, and we're going to screw up. Sometimes we're going to screw up really big. Like, for example, I'm a farmer. There are all kinds of options to screw up really big. A few years ago, I went and I sprayed the wrong chemical on our barley, and I destroyed our barley. Now, the retailer provided me with the wrong chemical, which was their mistake, and they owned it, they owned up to it, and they resolved it, and our relationship is better for it, but I also should have read the label and known what I was doing, which I didn't, and could have avoided the whole catastrophe. But that kind of shows you the retailer, they owned up to their mistake, and now we have a better relationship because we took care of it. If our government were to own up to their mistakes, I would have a better relationship with them. I would actually trust them more for saying, yeah, I screwed up, rather than them just denying. Other mistakes that I make as a farmer this year, no matter how much I research and learn and plan and whatnot, I always seem to screw up. And this year with the moisture situation, we really got bit with this whole regenerative farming thing. I did not seed deep enough this year. I thought that I'll put it in at the regular depths and we'll get a rain, it'll be great. And it didn't rain for many weeks, and so our neighbors' crops emerged and ours didn't, and the weeds came out on our fields but not on the neighbors. So now we've got a rain, now our crops coming out of the ground, but due to that one little mistake, we got all kinds of problems. Now, I could go and blame the fertilizer companies. I could blame the people who instructed me on how to use the fertilizer. I could blame the manufacturer of the drill, which we use to put the seed in the ground. But if I'm totally honest, that's not the problem. The problem was the person behind the steering wheel who made the decisions for depth, and that was me. So I need to own up to my mistakes. I need to be proud of the worst crops in the country, which are some of ours, and just accept what I've done, learn from it, and move on. And that's going to make things a lot easier. It's going to be kind of sucky for a little while, being the person with some of the ugliest crops in the area. But unfortunately, when you make mistakes, there are consequences, and owning up to them doesn't necessarily make those consequences go away. So we have now arrived at where I just about walked home from. Thankfully, my wife came and picked me up. Otherwise, I would have walked 2 miles home. Not that it would have necessarily been bad for me. But we are now about to see one of my mistakes, and this happens. We got some rain, and I was bringing some dirt down to fill in a little bit of a hole, and it was a little bit wetter than I thought that it was. So let's take a look at my stuck truck. I would say it's barely stuck. So if you do something like this, whether it be on a large scale, like you mess up your whole seeding plan on your farm, or you do it on a small scale, like with your children, or maybe you screw up a whole freaking country, own up to your mistakes. Just makes life easier. I did that. Ta-ta.